looking for that great next read or your new favorite author? Check out Amy's Bookshelf Reviews recommendations. You won't be disappointed. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Today we are joined by an author. Would you please introduce yourself and let the audience know how they can connect with you?
My name is Talia Haven, and you can find me on Amazon.
Great. And we're doing this a little bit different today, listeners, because this is not just an author that is going to discuss one of her books, but it's kind of like a deep dive into her mind and how she comes up with these great short stories. So, what inspires you to create these wonderful stories?
The very first story I wrote was Mama Cried. And I was watching the news, and it seems like everybody always talks about justice for so-and-so.
Right.
And I got thinking about that, and I thought, well, there is justice for so-and-so, but what about if I created a place where the victim could also determine their justice? I used a child, and it's not very descriptive on how she died. I didn't really think that was necessary. The only thing I really thought was necessary was the fact that she got to make a decision based on the misery that her family suffered. So I put her in a playground, and I give her some puppies. Everybody loves puppies. Right. And from there on, it just grew. And basically that's what it's about. It's about the person that has been victimized getting justice for the people that are left behind, because they don't get any. Not really.
Yeah, you're right. And I remember reading that story the first time. I think that was one of the first of your stories that I read, and it made me cry. So,
yeah. I got a lot of response of people saying it just literally made them cry. So
yeah. I mean, you see the title, you're like, Mama Cried. You're like, yeah, right. It's not going to make me cry. But it does, because once you get into it, and I find that short stories can be more difficult to write than sometimes long ones, because you're putting in you have so much detail you want to put in. You don't want to, put too much in, but you want the story to be a full story. Every story needs a beginning, middle, and end. And whether it's a novel or a short story, sometimes they can be more difficult. I've actually turned myself to writing more short stories than novels because of my disabilities, and it's easier for me to write the short story, but not all the time.
Right. You do really have to limit it to a very narrow viewpoint when you do a short story. I agree 100%. Like when I wrote Creme de Shaw, I basically asked myself how to realistically make a creature that I know is fictional disappear or go extinct in a real world. And the legend of unicorns is that the males really do crave the touch of a human virgin's hand. And if I was to figure out how to actually make something go extinct and make it seem like it really could happen, that is basically how I did it. That's was the presence behind that one was the unicorn legend. Everybody knows they're a myth, but if they actually did exist, how would you do it? And that went from that. I like unicorns.
So do I. I do. I collect stuffed animals or unicorns.
No, I don't have any, but I do like them. I wrote the unicorn's virgin, and that one there was completely different. You expected the unicorn to be attracted. There were two twins, and you expected the unicorn to be attracted to one of the twins, but it actually wasn't. And it didn't end up being a happy ending in that one, because really, when you think about it, what happens when the unicorn's mission fails? What happens to the unicorn? I mean, do they go back being their happy, gallopy little selves running around the villages, and, or is there tragedy that falls upon the family that happens to be cursed with attracting a unicorn? And that one there is the unicorn's virgin, excuse me.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought of is why would they do what they do, and what happens when it fails?
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like just like how you would picture a unicorn. I mean, every time you see a picture of a unicorn, there's rainbows and
Yep.
starlights, and you think of this as a very mythical, like you said, it's a mythical character, but what if it was actually real, or so, and being extinct, I mean, when you think about real life animals and how they became extinct or they're on the verge of it, it's not always a happy ending. So I think your ending was appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
because the
everything has to have
unicorn
a
had
happy
its
ending.
own. Yeah, not everything I write. In fact, I don't think there's anything I've ever written that has a happy ending. I don't know why I'm so dark, but I am.
Okay.
Uh, it was like when I did a Dab's Gift, and I went completely different and decided to write a child's kind of like a fairy tale. And when I used the Dab's Gift, I asked myself if there was really any stories about how the genie got into the bottle. And I really couldn't find anything. I could find all kinds of stories about genies being freed, your last wish is you're free, and the genie goes off and into the sunset, and she's a happy gal. But I couldn't find anything that really put her in that lamp.
Right.
So when I wrote a Dab's Gift, I had to go back into the ancient Arab and find myself a caravan god. And then I created the story from there, from her having the dilemma of how to help the humans all the way to her ending up in the lamp. And that one there was fun to write, and it was researching the Arabic gods was really interesting. I really should do more with them, because they got a really diverse group of characters. And I chose the caravan god for the simple reason that the animals that is being the main topic of the conflict ended up being camels. So the caravan god, the camels, it all goes from there. And I put
Yeah.
her in a bottle.
Yeah. When people think of mythology, they think of Roman or Greek, but,
Yeah.
that's like a whole new take on, I mean, a lot of cultures have, some type of myth or legend, but usually you just hear about like Roman and mainly Greek, sometimes
Yeah.
Roman, but mainly Greek. So that was a
Yeah.
real, I must tell everybody I read all of your stories. So,
Yes.
and they stand out in my mind because, they were different and not something unpredictable and, something that it's not the type of story that you've ever read before. And that's what you want,
Right.
I mean, your stories are remarkable, and me as reading seems like millions, that yours stand out in my head no matter how long ago I've read them, because they were those, like, everybody wants to be different and have a unique style, but not everybody does. But with your stories, it's like, I've never read anything like it before. So I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you. I take that as a great compliment. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
welcome. You deserve it. And I know you've got a lot of more stories in you. But when you, like for that particular story, Adapt Give,
Mhm.
what, was there something that just kind of said, like, it just, like, how that idea just came to be where you decided to do, what was it, like, what came first? The mythology of, the Arab mythology, or was it how did genie get put in the bottle?
It was how the genie got put in the bottle. And like I said, I've done a lot of reading, but I've never found anything that really explained how she got there. And it
What
was
gave
really
you
that.
that thought? How the genie
Huh?
got in the bottle? What gave you that thought? Like, how did the genie get in the bottle?
Well, sometimes I wake up and there's a sentence in my head and it goes from there. Like in Fragments of an Ancient God's Dream, my second story in there is I am 8. And she's a goddess of misbehavior, and she's not very well known. I woke up one morning and the sentence is, my mother feels my mother feels that I should stand in front of Zeus and get my punishment. And it just went from there. And I wrote down that sentence, and I opened up my laptop, and I looked for somebody that was misbehaving who wasn't really too famous. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows who 8 is. She was a
Right.
blank slate. I mean, she had a little bit of history of being
Mm-hmm.
naughty, when she got in trouble with Hercules,
Yeah.
and ended up being kind of in a roundabout way responsible for his death. But she was a blank slate. And she was the primordial goddess of misbehavior. Well, who doesn't like somebody that likes to misbehave? I mean, 8 is,
Yeah.
she's
We
fun.
all like misbehave. Yeah.
Yeah, you got her standing in front of Zeus, and all these women are coming up and all these guys are coming up saying, well, if you hadn't done this, and she's like, am I the goddess of whatever it is you're accusing me of? And she's on trial in front of Zeus, and all these women are coming up accusing her of things. And, there was the one with the Menador where she was upset that she gave birth to the Menador. And she's thinking to herself, well, Zeus ought to be upset about this because his family's full of creatures, the Cyclops and everything else is in his family. Yeah, but ought to be upset that she's upset about the fact that she's upset because she gave birth to the Menador. But yeah, 8 she's got to be my favorite character, and I might do something with her because she's misbehavior. She's trouble. And I don't
That's,
think she really intends to be, but she's just the goddess of it.
yeah,
She's
I think
fun.
I find it fun. You write about the good guys and well-behaved people, but writing for, not even necessarily villains, but just the, ones that they don't fit into that norm of what would be good, and just, misbehaving, or just, being a jerk. I like writing for those characters.
Yeah.
Fun because
I
this
like
is
her.
how I'm gonna be.
Yeah, and, yeah, she did end up getting tried in front of everybody. And yeah, it was a fun one to write. But
It sounds like that you just have so much fun, right? Coming up with your ideas and then writing them. I mean, I find that writing is it's so much fun for me too. I mean,
Yes.
I walk around wherever I go. I have a notebook with me, and there's one always by my bed. So when I think of something, I write it down. So that's just
Yep.
kind of how, I don't. Sometimes it could just be a conversation between two characters, and then it'll start something.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
watching a show. I've watched shows, and I'm like, oh, I know how it's going to end, but I think they did it this way, it would be better. And then you kind of get ideas and inspiration. My kids hate watching movies with me because I can tell when it's, it's a predictable ending, and I say it out loud, and then at the end they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, I'm a writer. I know that. I
Yeah, it's
know how people
predictable.
write.
Yep.
I like to be unpredictable. When I'm
Yeah,
really
it is no
surprised,
fun.
yeah, that's when I'm like, if I didn't see it coming, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, I like unpredictability too. Very, very much.
Yeah, you don't want people to, everybody I've read books that are either, they're technically accurate, grammar, punctuation and all that, but there's not a lot of passion behind their words. And then I can tell by reading, someone's work, their passion, if they enjoyed writing, what that is. And, and when I see that and I can pretty much feel it, then I know that that's a book that everybody should read.
Yes.
And I
The one that
definitely got your enjoyment, as you were writing it. It's like I can just imagine, how you were writing it, and just even laughing to yourself or something. I've done that myself, or trying not to cry out loud because I'm writing a really terrible scene or whatever.
yeah, yeah. I I like to also think about my next one that I'm currently working on, and it's not even close to being done. It is another short. I did
Mhm.
slip back into shorts. Is
That's okay.
asking the question, how did the sled dogs and the sleds come to be? So I put myself into Alaska and northern Canada, and I'm currently working on that, of answering that basic question. It's such a simple thing. Everybody knows they're there. Well,
Right.
who started the whole thing, and developed a myth around it, a realistic myth with the Inuit gods, and went from there.
That's
So that's hmm?
And so that's really interesting. I've read Call of the Wild, and that was kind of, like the dark side of, um, you know, dogs and how they were treated and things like that. But, knowing I had no idea where it even began.
No. And that's a nice thing too, because you can take almost any object, and like the sled dog teams, and figure out, well, how did this even start? And then just go into the ancient history and find yourself a suitable god or goddess to cause a little bit of interference and a little bit of trouble, and the next thing you know, you got sled dogs in the team, and me, I'm always dark. Somebody's going to get punished. So the main character, they always seem to take a fall.
But that's okay. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to read this one. I know it's like I said, the dark parts they're just great. And then, and you think about it and you're like, well, if a god or goddess and they were wanting to, come up with something, maybe they transformed a demigod into a dog or something they did wrong, and then you never know. So you can
Yep,
always
you
make
never know.
it doesn't matter if it's impossible or improbable, but to read it and think, well, if that could happen, this would probably be the way it would happen.
It would
And I
be.
like, yeah, it makes it real, even if it's, it's just a story, but I think it's wonderful. I can't wait to read that one.
Yeah, I'll send it to you as soon as I get it done. I'm tinkering with it right now. It's been sitting on the back shelf because of the other project that I have
Right.
going on. I just opened it up the other day. So, but yeah, it's, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I guess so the only thing I can think of right now that I wanted to also talk about was The Good Mystic, which is about banshees. And I had always had a kind of like a fascination with banshees and the fact that they cry out somebody's name. And they tend, from what I understand, attach themselves to families. So when I worked on The Good Mystic, I wanted to deal with a banshee that had attached herself to a family, but I needed to get her from the point of where she was very, very important to being a curse and a burden. And when I wrote that one, I actually made her into a prophet that only told good things, hence the Good Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
She had learned her lesson when she first come into her seeing abilities, and it basically scared the daylights out of the village. So now she says nothing but good, but she has to twist it in a way to make it sound like it's all good, but the hidden is buried underneath the quote that she gives. And she ends up getting into a little bit of trouble and ends up being a curse to a family. So she ends up being killed, and she wanders at night cursing. The family is cursed because of what they did to her, and she ends up being the banshee. And how she got there is mostly about her mother.
Wow. That's really, it's making me look at that story like a whole different way. And it's, like I said, your story stood out to me, but I like that, how you describe that. So
Yeah.
with that thought, so if she's yelling out or screech and
Yeah,
making it sound like it's good, what would you be saying that to make it sound good, but then it had like undertones of not so good?
in the plot, what I have is her being called to go to a chief, one of the chieftains,
Mm-hmm.
and the wife recognizes the little trinket that she brings with her that her mother, who is actually a goddess, had given her to take as a testament that she can speak for her. She goes
Right.
in and she was wanting to have children. So this is the spoiler. She goes in and the woman asks her, well, she asks her if she will have her children, and she says yes. She'll have 2 children, and she's very excited because she's blessed with twins. But what she doesn't ask and what she doesn't tell her, and then she worries about childbirth, and she asks, will I live to see my children? And she knows that she's going to die. She's gonna die from bed fever. A lot of women back then do.
Right.
And she ends up with the 2 children. Well, the one child, the boy, only lives for a short period of time. And she asks, will I live to see my children? And she tells her, yes. Your children are born alive and you will see them. Well, what happens is yes, she did have the child. Yes, the boy was born first. The boy dies. The mother dies a few days later, and the baby girl refuses to take the breast. So he is very angry because he had interpreted the way she told him, because she only tells good things, is that he was going to have a happy family. And that's not the way it come out, because the way she asked the questions, she had to dig down and give the answers. Will I see my children? Yes, you'll see your children. Your children will live. Will I see my children? Yes, you'll see your children, even though she knew the little boy was going to die shortly after birth, but the woman was going to see her child, and he was alive. And then she was going to see her daughter, but the mother dies of the fever, and the little girl, twins really didn't live that long, I don't think, back then, was too small to feed, it was too weak, and died also. So basically this chief lost all of his family in the span of a few days. But if you look at the way I wrote it, the way the question was presented and the way she presented the answer was, yes, it was very limited in scope. You will see your children. You will live to see your children. Your children are going to be born alive. And those are questions that she asked. She didn't get into real deep detail with her questions. And in the story, I have her thinking about how she's going to answer this to not tell bad things, because she doesn't tell bad things. She only tells good things. Right. So she made the woman happy. But in the end, and then, it goes on from there where he gets kind of a little bit annoyed and sends somebody out, and then it goes from there.
Right. Yeah. But, when you think about it too, it's like going back to the genie in the bottle, when people made their wishes, they have to be very specific about what they want, because, it's like, oh, I want $1 million. So you gave $1 million, but that means $1 million came from someplace else. Could have been a very poor country or whatever. So they're like, technically, she answered her question. Yeah, you're going to see your kids, just not for very long.
And she did answer every question, and she made the woman very happy, and she did get to see her children. It just didn't work out the way that the husband, who was listening to her give the prophecy, thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And that is just, I love your thinking and how you go down that road with, it's just amazing. And I can say that, definitely I will have you back on this show. I love the way your mind works, and I'm going to keep reading all your stuff. So just to kind of wrap up here, Talia, thank you very much for being on the show. And it's actually really nice to talk to you. And, for the first time, we've been emailing and things like that. And I like getting to, be able to talk with authors, and there are some I'd rather talk to more than others, but I do. I thank you for being on the show. So I'm going to just close out now. If you wish for you or your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well, and always be kind.
Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well.